Hey again, this is Cam from Gibsunday and Tone Throne, and today you're watching another gear review. Today we'll be going over the Swindler Effects Red Mountain Tremolo. Now I'm excited for this pedal for a lot of different reasons. One of the main ones is I'm a huge fan of tremolo. It's one of my favorite effects, and when done well, it can be an absolutely fantastic contribution to your overall sound and style and what you're doing. So when you come across one like the Red Mountain, you realize how good tremolo really is. Coming across something this good is not common. So I'm really excited about this one. I've had it on my board for a few months and I'm still not tired of it, which is just so good. Swindler Effects, Drew over at Swindler, has made an incredible pedal. It's sonically just so pleasing. There's so much pedal packed into this little enclosure. And then lastly, and not terribly importantly, but something that I value a lot, is that it's aesthetically so pleasing. It's just a gorgeous pedal. And it's really cool to see how he's kind of rebuilt his line to be this really cool, really clean, really simple look. So we're gonna go ahead and dig into this. We're gonna make this a talking video, and it's gonna be hopefully just a one-part video. There's so much packed in, so there's no guarantee that this will be short, but I will do my absolute very best to get us through this. So let's go through the front of the face here, the face of the pedal, and see what everything does. So we've got the speed knob, depth knob, level knob, division, waveform, and then a phase switch here in the middle, tap tempo, bypass and fave, a ramping feature, stereo in, stereo out, expression, and then a tap or a bank over here based on whatever your setup is. So this pedal can do a lot. Also on the inside of this one, if you pop it open, there's a mini USB feature, so you could plug it in and update software as it comes in. So this one can do just so friggin' much. It's kind of insane. And if I remember correctly, if your TRS is set up correctly, or your if your TRS or external tap are set up correctly, then there is a MIDI option as well. So this thing is just an insane amount of pedal. So with each of these, we're going to go through them. So first is speed. This manually controls the speed of the tremolo effect itself. Depth controls the strength of the tremolo. The level controls the recording, or the overall output, which we're actually not going to mess with today just for the sake of recording. Then there's division, and this controls the tempo subdivision that would be typically used with a tap foot switch. And these include quarter, dotted eighth, eighth, triplet, and 16th. Then the waveform has 6 different sine waves. So that's sine, triangle, square, ramp up, ramp down, and stutter effect. Then lastly here we have the phase switch, and this dictates how you're hearing the phase of the tremolo. So if it's either standard stereo, harmonic mode, or out of phase, which is really fun to play with. Then tap, so you can actually tap in the speed here that correlates with the speed here, your bypass over here, and then if you hold it down, you move into favorite mode as well. So tons of pedal. Let's hear what it sounds like. So we're just gonna play what's here. All right, let's look at this one first here at the speed knob. Let's go ahead and slow it way down so we can get an idea of how much this affects the sound. So you can see that the depth here is at 75%, so when you slow the speed down this much, it almost comes across as a very, very, very delicate kind of sine wave, almost non-existent. So we start to speed it up, then we start to hear the effect take place. So the speed is a really cool knob just because you see how much impact it has on the effect. So depth is kind of the bread and butter of what the trim is. I mean, it really affects how much you get of it, how much you don't. I mean, that sounds really obvious, but just for the sake of understanding really what the tremolo does, even though this is 100%, depth is 0, so there's nowhere for it actually to go, so it's going to be a straight wave. It's going to be an unaffected wave. So because we're in the sine waveform and because we're our speed is pretty low, even though our depth is pretty high, it still leaves a pretty calm, pretty smooth kind of tremolo effect. So we'll crank the speed up here. How much it really starts to affect the actual signal. Alright, like I said, we're going to skip level, but this is the overall output of the effect. Let's come down here to division. So this one has quarter, dotted eighth, eighth, triplets, and then 16ths. So let's keep this here. This is quarters. We're in dotted eighth. We're in eighth now. Going up to six triplets. Sorry, 16th next. You really hear it start to kind of fishtail, it really gets intense. And now in 16th. Sweet, I like it. I'm gonna go back to dotted eighth. So something that's really important to note here on the red mount and the way that it works is that the location of the knob, the dial, is really, really important. Whenever you're here, when you're so you're in the quarter here and you're going up to dotted eighth, it's really important that you're not just right on it, but you're a little bit past it. I'd found that when I wasn't really paying attention, when I would just kind of move up, and I thought I was there, it wasn't actually activating it. So when I'm adjusting anything with the dial with division or subdivision, or with division or waveform, it's really important just to be aware of it. It's past the line, like kind of in the gray zone here in the middle, and just to ensure that you're actually getting the dotted eighth or the eighth or whatever the case might be. And we're gonna come back to the phase switch, but for now let's go into the waveform. So those 6 waveforms are sine, triangle, square, ramp up, ramp down, and stutter. The latter 3 are just a ton of fun to play with, and the first 3 are probably the most common. The first being sine wave, which is the most common waveform that you're used to. It's how we perceive signals generally. Triangle, so sine wave looks, like a wave. The triangle wave looks just like a triangle, and the reason that's a triangle is because it's there's sharper cuts, so it's going to be a little more obvious. It's not going to be quite as smooth. And then third is the square form, and with the square form, it's literally squares. So when it gets to the very top of the wave, it's got a square, and it drops off and shoots across and shoots up, shoots. So you hear it. It's like a stutter stop. It's pretty cool. Ramp up sounds like a bit of a delay because it gets to the very top and cuts, very top and cut. So it ramps up, cut, ramp up, cut. Ramp down is a reverse, so it actually sounds like a reverse delay, which is pretty cool. It starts at the top and then drops down, starts at the top and drops down. And then last is a full stutter stop. So we'll get to the stutter stop and explain that one a little more, but here is the sine wave. Triangle. Then we'll go to square wave, and you hear it there, whoop, whoop, whoop. Triangle again, and then back to sine. So here you can kind of hear it, how it kind of closes in and out at the end. Again, it's not as smooth. Now we'll go to the square. All right, let's try ramp up. I mean, that one's so pronounced, the ramp, it even sounds a little bit like a delay. Here, so I'm going to crank the depth 100% and then pull the speed back so you can really hear it. There it is. Let's try the ramp down. Whoop, went too far, went to stutter accidentally. Sounds a little bit reversed. Alright, and then last, this one's a fun one, so we'll go to stutter now. So stutter will not allow for any signal to pass through until you're holding the tap foot switch. This is not as easy, obviously, when we're on a desktop, when it's on your foot, and you're actually pressing it with your foot while playing, it's a lot more fun. full stutter, which is pretty friggin' cool. Now let's go over to the phase switch. So here in the middle is a standard stereo tremolo. The left and the right are synced together. When it's over in the right, it's harmonic mode. So the high and low frequencies are out of phase to create a unique vibrato sound, and then the left is out of phase for a ping pong mode, which is really cool. So let's listen to it here when they're in sync together. I'm going to put it in square so you can really hear it. Okay, so now let's go over to the right into harmonic mode. And this is where you're going to hear the high and the low frequencies out of phase from each other. So there's a unique vibrato type of sound. Which is pretty cool. It's hot, top, bottom, top, bottom. Okay, and now for my personal favorite, left, which is out of phase entirely for the ping pong mode. Super cool. Okay, let's go on. Okay, so for the next part, we're going to talk about how to set up the expression configuration. This is a big part of it because without knowing this part, you can't really dig into the rest of it. So, I mean, before we go much further, I would say it's really important to recognize that everything that we've done so far has just made for a brilliant, wonderfully, sonically pleasing, aesthetically gorgeous pedal. But now everything after this is just, gravy on top. So let's talk a little bit about how to do that. So up here is the expression. Right here you can see that I've got my Old Blood Noise slider expression here, and then over here would be a tap expression for if you wanted to use a tap tempo, an external tap or like a recall. So there's ways to set up each of them, and it's all pretty straightforward. It's a matter of, while holding a combination of the foot switches and powering up at the same time and following the instructions, you're going to tell the pedal where it is that you want to be and what it is that you want to do. So for us to use the expression and set up expression mode, what we're going to want to do is we're going to go ahead and power it down. It's going to make some popping noise, sorry. So we're going to hold down the tap expression for a few seconds, and it's going to blink at me 3 times to let me know that we're in expression mode. So I'm going to go hold it down. Now while I'm here and still holding it down, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move this depth knob. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm assigning this expression slider to my depth. I'm going to go ahead and let go. It blinks at me 3 times, as you saw that. And that's its way of saying, hey, we're in expression mode. I received your command. We're good to go. You see that I was able to tell it that easily. Too easy. Okay, now we're gonna go into external favorite mode. So first what you want to know is you want to know how to save a favorite. So say that we like this sound right here, but I want it to be a little deeper. Great, we're still in square, everything's good. I'll go ahead and just move it up. I'm gonna hold down these both at the same time for a couple of seconds. Center LED blinks at me 3 times. This is now saved as my favorite, right? So let's go ahead and mess everything up. Make it sound super weird and very obviously different from what we just had. Now when I recall, when I click my bypass on, it's now on. When I hold my bypass, the center LED lights up, and that's its way of telling me that we're in favorite mode. So when I leave favorite mode, we hear what it sounds like based on these settings here on top. When I enter favorite mode, we're going to hear it resume the settings that I made a second ago and create it as a favorite. So if I want to alter the setting, I do the exact same process. So I like this a lot and I go, great, let me hold this down for a couple of seconds. And I let go. It blinks at me. And this is now my new favorite setting. So to make this expression slider over here my external favorite mode, what I'm going to do is the same thing as before. I'm going to go ahead and power down, but this time I'm going to hold the bypass LED for a few seconds, letting it know. So you power it up, you hold it for a few seconds, less than 5, and you release it, and you're in power mode, or you're in favorite mode, sorry. So I'm going to go and hold it down. 1, 2, 3, I'll let it go. It blinks at me 3 times. Now there's not going to be a more or less. It's basically just going to be, it's going to be on and off. So you can see the center LED is not lit up. I scroll to the top, boom, it lights up. The thing that's changing is it's going from not favorite to favorite. So this is now set up as an external favorite mode, which is freaking rad. I mean, if I had a different pedal setup with this, I could easily recall and have both of them set up at the same time, which is so dope. Okay. After that, there's MIDI instructions for how to do MIDI. It's the same thing to enter into MIDI mode. To set up MIDI mode, you power up the pedal while holding the tap and the bypass foot switches simultaneously for a few seconds. When you release, you begin operation in MIDI mode. I don't have anything MIDI yet. When I do, I'll be able to use that setting the exact same way. Next on this pedal we have the tap ramp feature. So what's cool about the tap ramp feature is what it sounds like. When you hold down the tap, based on the position of the phase switch, it'll dictate what type of ramping you're doing. So when you're in the left, you're going to be in the slowdown. So like right now, this is toggle left, you'll be in the slowdown ramp. When you're in the right, you'll be in the speed up ramp. When you're in the middle, you're going to be in an alternating speed up, slow down ramp. So I want to do the left. What that means is I have to have this out of the place. I can't have it already in that setup, if that makes sense. The toggle has to be in a different spot for me to tell it. It doesn't just assume ramp. So what's going to happen is I'm going to hold down the tap ramp feature. I'm going to go ahead. You see it blinks at me. I'm going to move the speed. You see how fast it's going. While I'm holding down the tap ramp, it slows down. When I let it go, it resumes where it was. Slows down. Now I'm going to go hold down the tap. We're going to switch it over to the right side. You saw the LED blinked at me. I'm going to slow it way down over here. Here's my current speed. And now it's speeding up nice and slowly. This is a lot harder to do with. Now it's speeding up, and as you can see, it's a lot harder to do with one hand because it's a nice, steady, slow ramp up. And that's how you set it up in the right position for a ramp up. I mean, as you can see, it's still going. There's still a little bit of ways to go because it just ramps up so stinking high. And that's just about it. Yeah, there you go, so that's ramped up. So this time we're gonna go to the middle, so this is an alternating. So when it's in the middle for the ramping position, it's a little bit different from left and right. The difference is, on the first hold, the speed will continually slow down. Once released, it will stay at the new slower speed. And the reason it does that is because if it went back to, like, let's say that you wanted to slow it way down, but if you had your knob here, it would resume back. Well, Drew was brilliant enough to make it to wherever it was that you stopped so that you could then ramp up from that position on your next because it is alternating. I hope that makes sense. So we're gonna hold down the we're gonna hold down the tap ramp, switch it over to middle, and this time I'm gonna go ahead and just move it to the middle. So here's my signal. Well, it's actually speeding up right now. On the first one, it's supposed to slow down. Let's see if it does it. So now it slowed down. So it didn't go the same as you know, as the instructions say it will, but it did slow down. It did alternate. So let's do it again. Now you can see it's starting to speed up. Nice and easy. And now it's slowing down. There you go. Okay, that's it. I can't believe that's it. This is a really cool pedal. I hope that you enjoy this. I really hope that you'll pick one up from Swindler and put one on your board. I mean, all the modulation, all the feels, everything that is that you want, an absolutely beautiful pedal to add to your board. This is a super satisfying pedal. This has been a really great addition to my board personally, and I hope that you'll do the same. Check out swindlereffects.com, go see Drew, and make sure that you grab a red mount for your board. I do not think you'll be disappointed. Thanks so much for watching. Click subscribe, and we'll see you next time.